With all the issues going on in Europe right now, what do you think the outlook is for European M&A in 2012?
Well, it's been slow all year. It's running about 25% of global volumes. It usually runs somewhere in the mid-30s. It's better. Our business is picking up. I think that's basically a function of a couple of things. One is we're going to see asset sales or distressed asset sales coming out of in the financial institutions area, the banks, where they're looking to deleverage and looking for liquidity. But I also think European corporates are starting to think about ways of diversifying revenue streams further out of Europe, and will be also net buyers. So our business has picked up. I think the other point that's interesting is what we call rest of the world volumes, which is outside of Western Europe and North America, have been also slow this year relative to last year. But we think that's sort of aberrational in that when you look at GDP growth, infrastructure growth, I mean, that's where the puck's going, right? And as a result, you've got to be there. You've got to be in places like Brazil, India, China. I mean, over the next 5 years, we think as the securities industries get better, the regulatory infrastructure gets better, better legal, the legal systems become more defined around securities law, we'll continue to see sort of more transaction flows, and we're well positioned because of the history we've got in a lot of those jurisdictions.
So more growth with BRICs, kind of a smooth down economy, so more of a positive outlook.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, cross-border volumes have been a little off this year, but had been running as much as 40% of the global market. A lot of that's developed into emerging market, but we also have a significant component now of emerging market to emerging market. For example, China, Brazil, for example, places where we see those kinds of flows, and as a result, in Japan, for example, the strength of the yen and more diversification away from the Japanese market, we've seen a fair bit of activity. China and Japan are the two biggest net acquirers, by country outside of the United States this year.
And do you expect that trend to continue with China and Japan?
It's always difficult to predict this. China, for sure, because of just the sheer size and the way the economy is growing. I think more difficult to call around Japan. But we see volumes out of Russia. We see volumes out of a lot of non-traditional places.